Welcome, everyone, to episode 18 of the Worldstone Keep Podcast. We have had a pretty busy week here on the show, and we'll fill you in later what we mean by that. Most of you already know, though, or can guess, too, what it is. Joining me on the show, my usual compadres, Dan, Ken, and Jordan. Jordan covers lore. Dan covers video, Ken covers news. No interview question this week. We're going to try and keep this as short as possible while jamming in as much information into it as we can. So we'll see how it goes. Everybody want to say hello?
What up?
Hello.
What it is.
There's everybody. And I'm Joe. So let's go ahead and jump into segment one, which is lore. Jordan, what do we got this week?
Well, this week we got the Black Road, and this is book 5, and unless you're counting the ebook, which I generally don't. I mean, ebook was the first one, it's kind of cool and everything, but I like them to be a little bit longer, a little bit more detailed. So, the Black Road is actually the only one of all these, other books aside from the first one that was actually written by a different author. Mel Odom wrote this one as opposed to, as I say, all the others. So the Black Road kind of has a cool feel to it. It starts out, you've got, sailors and pirates and things of that nature. And the real keynote in the beginning of this is you have 3 different things really going on. You have these sailors who are part of the West March Navy, and they're basically been dispatched by the king to retrieve the king's nephew. And at the same time, pirates have kidnapped the nephew. They're holding him for ransom. They haven't really sent out any official word yet. But everyone else in their trek they've killed off. And their main point of being out at these certain locations that they were pillaging was because they had inside information. They were plundering gold not only from the king but also from the Zakharum church. The reason they were all able to do this was because of an old priest who defected by the name of Buyar Cholik. Now Cholik, being an old priest, was looking at that final stretch of his life, and he looked out at the horizon and said, "I'm not going to die an old man. Just my entire life wasted in the church. I'm not going to do it." So having been in it as long as he had, he realized that his only salvation remaining would have been through demonic power. He knew the church could do nothing for him. He knew that if he stayed where he was, they would eventually just ship him off to take care of the sick until he himself died. So to spare himself that fate, he hatched himself a plan. He said, well, you know what? I know where these shipments are going. I'm going to use the pirates to steal the gold. With my share, I'm going to buy up slaves and mercenaries. The mercenaries will keep the slaves in line. And he basically does this and works them to death. And what he's actually doing is unearthing this lost city.
Atlantis? Atlantis?
No, that would be far more interesting, I'm sure, but no, this is kind of a cool additive to the Diablo universe. I would really love to see this one in full fruition. At Turrek's Port, which is a good ways north of Westmarch, has its own bay. It's this freshwater river that runs up, and you have this old torn down port. It's all dilapidated and everything. But underneath it is a city that was destroyed many, many years ago. And as you hear the old priest talk in different chapters throughout the book, you realize that there's this forgotten segment within the Vizjari mages. There was a clan that became very huge, and probably in their time a few thousand years ago were at the top of everything. And they were called the Spirit Clan. And the Spirit Clan was led up by this guy who had this vision in a dream, and he would actually summon up the spirits of the dead. But he wasn't a necromancer. He didn't do it like that. He would actually absorb their power into himself, and essentially became more powerful than everyone else.
Mm.
So in the height of their era, the Spirit Clan pretty much was taking over other aspects of the Vizjari Mage Clan wars. But as he became more powerful, and while he was in trance, one actually took over his body and he went on a killing spree. Eventually, the Spirit Clan faded out. They were decimated. Their temples and everything in Vizjun were destroyed. And even the Turrek's Port was destroyed as well. And so you have this lost episode where it turns out they weren't summoning dead spirits. They were actually summoning demons, and they didn't know it.
Whoopsies.
The main one that they kept resummoning over and over again was by the name of Cabraxis. And Cabraxis was this really cunning demon, more so than pretty much any others, and he was very good at operating the gates between the worlds. So, unlike the three who would pretty much just walk in and just decimate things, he took his time. He would build up an entire church around an idea and trick everyone into, building up faith and confidence in what he was offering, because he was actually offering nice things at the time. He would actually heal people, and he did it all through a medium. He used someone as a
puppet.
Yeah, basically a puppet, and he was always referred to as the prophet.
Mm.
And like I say, the prophet would actually heal the sick and go around and do all these nice things, and they build up a really huge following before he ever decided to do anything else. And you had these interesting tenet aspects of the religion itself, like the idea of the three selves. You have the person that you show to everyone else, you have the person that you think of yourself as, and then you have the shadow self that most people don't have the courage to acknowledge. So in Cabraxis's religion, there would be I think 3 days a year where they could just do whatever the hell they wanted. If you wanted to go on a bender and an orgy and kill people, that was fine. After the 3 days were up, you were forgiven.
Oh, nice. So it's kind of like that period with the Amish, where they're allowed to, once they become adults. What's that called?
Right. It has a weird name.
Yeah, it does.
Springer or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, except this would be for even adults, and it'd just be a once-a-year thing. And it was much more extreme, obviously.
Oh.
I like that idea.
Yeah, so how about them apples?
Quick question. What is an orgy? It says here I'm allowed to do it, but I'm not sure what it is. Can someone explain?
Well, there's some succubus involved.
It's like, hey, you can do whatever you want. We don't even know what you should call it. It's just do your thing, man. It's all good. Don't drink too much on the first day. You want to be awake for the second, too.
Exactly.
So the lost city that Buyar Cholik is trying to excavate is Ransom. And in the midst of all this, you have, the pirate captain is pretty confident in himself, and he doesn't think much of the priest. And Cholik, very early on in the book, puts him in his place, just sends out a wave of energy from his hand, picks the guy up by his throat, and dangles him over the cliffside. Very, very Star Wars-y,
Yeah, pretty cliche.
Yeah. And just kind of says, you're going to do what I tell you because I told you to do it, and that's just going to be that. And tosses him back onto the side, and his, throat's all bruised, and he can't really talk all that well for a little while. And he knows that the Captain Rythen is going to try and get back at him at some point, but he doesn't care. He knows that what's done is done, and he needed to do it. What he's desperately trying to keep secret from everyone else is that every time he uses a spell, he's just progressively weaker. He knows that a few spells later he might pass out into a coma and not wake up.
Oh.
So time is of the essence. The faster that he can get onto the Black Road, the better. That's his last-ditch effort.
So what is the Black Road?
The Black Road is actually a portal way between the Burning Hells and Sanctuary.
Okay.
As I said, Cabraxis was very good at operating the gates between the worlds, and he created his own. And the Black Road, it was said, was actually composed of the bodies of all of those that he tricked into taking the path. So you could just imagine walking this line just made of countless corpses. And there's a very detailed description of it, but I haven't gotten that far in my notes, so we'll get back to that later.
Cool.
So far you have Cholik has found the gate. They're excavating it. On his way down with his little suck-up yes man,
Mm-hmm.
there are all these rats that are just coming out of everywhere because in the time Cabraxis was in power, there was this great summoning of all the people that had died there in undeath. And like I say, Cabraxis was very cunning. He didn't do things in a very direct manner. He actually set the spell up to work over, decades even. So it wouldn't just be like a necromancer, boom, everything's alive. It's just a year later, there might be more, there might be more, there might be more. So there are all these bodies down there, and the rats kept feeding off of them until they were, as big as your arm and just, innumerable numbers, and he has to pretty much torch them all as they try to attack him.
Rodents of unusual size.
Exactly. And there's actually this big abyss on the way down where they chunk all the bodies of the slaves who were worked to death or injured or whatever.
Dread Pirate Roberts.
Yeah, the pirates don't really care. They're getting their gold cut, so they could give a damn less what Cholik does.
Right.
Rythen's really interested by this point, though, because he thought, he's just an old priest. He didn't really pose any threat. And then he turns out to be more powerful than even he is. It's like, well, what the hell is he up to? What is he looking for down there?
Mm-hmm.
So he goes and asks the king's nephew, because he knows that he's trained in the ways of philosophy and history and all these other things that royalty generally are, and manages to get the boy to talk about the legend of Cabraxus. He brought the whole thing up because one of his informants brought him a symbol that was on this giant door leading to the Black Road. While Cholik's actually using his skills to open the door, Rythen is questioning the boy. Meanwhile, Derek and his group, Derek Lang is the main character. You have his best friend, Matt Hooring, an older one named Aldrin. You have this, crack team, just a few people to rescue the boy. They know if they send a full force that probably won't work out the way they want it to. So on their way up, they're climbing up the mountainside. Guy pretty much catches wind of what's going on. There are two pirates sitting up at the post. It's, nighttime's foggy and all that. And Derek's almost at the top, gets his thumb cut, and he's jabbing back and forth. A companion of his from below fires an arrow up to distract him while he, knocks the guy off the ledge and tries to run the other guy down. So you have a lot of this sort of classic stuff going on.
Right.
And Derek has a bit of a history behind him as well. He had a really mean father. His father was a butcher, had calluses on his hand, and just one slap, it'd actually break the skin on your face. On a very continual basis reminded him that he was nothing, and was pretty much constantly tormenting him because he hated his son. And
what a dick.
Yeah, basically. Matt, on the other hand, had a great family. He had an opportunity to work in the family mill. He didn't really need anything, but he and Derek both joined the Navy and just kind of set sail from there. And Derek was pretty much determined to climb through the ranks. So when he's killing pirates, he's actually, in many respects, back in Hillsfar, where he grew up, with all these really traumatic memories. And so he just slips into this very dark aspects and just, slaughters people, and doesn't always come back to reality fast enough. Sometimes, people have to help him snap out of it.
Damn.
Yeah. So yeah, very interesting aspect there. They manage to capture the pirate, get information they need, continue forward, find the next camp group, cut them all down, and mastermind what they're going to do with the next. The pirates had 3 ships, the main one in the center, with the boy still on it, by the name of Barracuda. Barracuda's ship was not going to go anywhere unless Rythen was on it. Up on the cliffside, they had supplies. They took these barrels, kicked them off over the ledge so they land dead center on the 2 other cogs, threw lanterns down and torched them. So you have the 2 ships aflame as a distraction for everyone in a panic while they're going onto the main cog to rescue the boy.
Right.
In the midst of all this, Derek ends up fighting with Rythen's first mate, and he cuts down a few other pirates in the process as well. And it's pretty cool action-wise. You have, sword block here, busts his nose there, yanks out the dagger and stabs him in the heart. It's that kind of thing.
Brutal.
Yeah, it's very brutal. In fact, when he was first going on to the deck, he actually jumped from the cliffside onto the rigging, he and Matt both, because unbeknownst to them, a few moments before that, just after that rather, the cliffside explodes from something that had lit fire.
Oh.
And you have these huge granite chunks raining down on the middle cog.